Namaste everyone, a very warm welcome to Damaru Yoga and Sound Therapy Studio and to our annual yoga festival Bilva. Today our second talk is going live and so like every year we have chosen different themes to work on or to invite speakers to share their knowledge on. This year for Bilva, the theme that we have chosen is cultural appropriation of yoga, necessity to embrace the inherent Indianness of the yogic tradition. So as we popularly know how these days yoga is compartmentalized, put in a box, and people mostly relate yoga to the asana practice or they say yoga and pranayam, yoga and meditation. They don't understand the holistic nature of this whole practice. So we thought we should celebrate this festival while we also bring about the more important facets or rather equally important facets of yoga to everybody. And also somewhere this misappropriations happen deliberately. So we need to bring into light how yoga has its root in a tradition which is thousands of years old. And if we take it out from its roots, it doesn't work. We need to acknowledge and accept the whole practice along with its roots in the Bharatiya Parampara. So that's the whole intention of Bilva this year. And so today, as I invite our esteemed speaker, the topic of her discussion is Svādhyāya, a technique of value education. So before we go into the topic, let me invite her. Namaste. Namaste, ma'am. So Miss Shobana Srinivasan, as I formally introduce her to you all, let me all tell you that she has been a mentor and guide to me in my Vedic chanting training years. So, Ms. Shobana Srinivasan, she's a senior yoga therapist from Krishnamacharya tradition. With more than 21 years of her association with 𝐭𝐚𝐥𝐲, she currently is the head of the department of the healing chants as a director at 𝐁𝐢𝐴𝐴, Chennai. And she's traveled abroad and conducted multiple workshops representing 𝐁𝐴𝐴. As a practicing senior yoga therapist and consultant, Ms. Shobana has a multifaceted personality and is deeply dedicated to her work and practice. And all my years with her in training, I can tell you that she has left a deep impression on my mind. She's an inspiration to me and, of course, to many other students who have trained under her, leading us into the discipline of chanting, coming across as a she would laugh at me, but coming across as a strict teacher in the first appearance. Believe me, when you get more and more closer, you can see the beautiful heart that she has and how patiently and tirelessly she can teach us the minute details and nuances of Vedic chanting, fine-tuning us, refining us every single time, every single class, and her never give up attitude. And she doesn't, relentlessly, she just keeps on correcting us till we get the finesse of chanting. So I am very grateful to have trained under her. Thank you, ma'am. And welcome to today's Bilva session. I hand over the stage to you now.
Thank you, Mauli, for introducing me. Now let me start with the prayer, seeking the blessings of all my teachers. Om Shri Krishnamacharya Samprapta वक्राङ्कभासारम् श्रीनूत्नरङ्गेन्द्रयतौ समर्पितस्त्वं श्रीकृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमीडे विरोधे कार्तिके मासे शतताराकृतोदयम् योगाचार्यं कृष्णमार्यं गुरुवर्यमहं भजे कृष्णसूरीदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्देऽहं योगदेशिकम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Thank you for listening. So namaste. So today the topic I have chosen is Svādhyāya, a technique of value education. Now let me talk to you about this word Svādhyāya. What does Svādhyāya mean? Svādhyāya means studying scriptures. It also means self-introspection. If you take this word Svādhyāya and if you split this word, Sva plus Adhyaya, it means Sva means self, Adhyaya means to study about our inner self. Atmajnanam, we say. So, why should we study these scriptures? Scriptures like the Vedic scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, the Itihasas and Puranas we have in our tradition. Should we study first of all these scriptures? Yes, these scriptures, they do show us the way to lead a life. What are all the disciplines? What are all the values we should follow in our day-to-day life? And for a person to move in this spiritual journey, how he has to apply all these values. It has been very clearly spoken in these scriptures. Now, speaking about yoga, in the present day, people think that practicing yoga means only doing asanas, pranayama, and to a certain extent, practicing meditation. In Yoga Sutra, Patanjali Muni has spoken about the Ashtanga Yoga. In the second chapter, 29th Sutra, he speaks about Ashtanga Yoga. What are the 8 limbs of yoga. They are the yama, the niyama, the asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. The first two angas, yama and niyama, it speaks about certain disciplines a yoga practitioner has to practice in their day-to-day life. And it becomes a prerequisite to attain social harmony, for social progress, and for to progress in this spiritual path. Now let us have a brief discussion about the disciplines mentioned in the yama and niyama. Under yama, Patanjali Muni has spoken about the first and the foremost discipline as ahimsa. What does ahimsa mean? Ahimsa means we should not harm others physically, verbally, or mentally. He enumerates that following the path of ahimsa is Mahavratam, or the greatest vow. When we practice ahimsa, we should take care of 3 sources which causes himsa to others. What are the 3 sources which causes himsa? Number 1, it is our ignorance. Number 2, it is the insensitivity we have. And number 3, it is the anger. We should remove our ignorance by learning which of our actions are hurting others. As the head of the family or head of an institution or a company, we hurt others in our family in front of others. And this is mainly because of our ignorance. We should become more sensitive enough to feel the pain of others. When we shout at others, or we criticize others, or insult one of our family members in front of other family members, we should know how sensitive these people, how they will feel. We should correct ourselves. And the last one is how we should manage our anger. Anger is a natural emotion. And according to the psychologist, anger is a defense mechanism. When the body is affected by some disease, what happens? Immediately, the body temperature raises. We will have fever. So, this is only a defense mechanism where the body is trying to be protected. In the same way, when somebody is angry with us and when they shout at us, what happens? Our mind gets heated up. Then what we do? we want to hit them back, shout at them back. Retaliation, taking revenge. Taking revenge and retaliation is not accepted by the Shastras. Shastras say that it is a Mahapapam. Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he speaks about this anger in second chapter, 43rd shloka. He says, Krodad bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibramaha, smriti bramshat buddhinashaha, buddhinashat pranashyati. What does it mean? He says, anger leads to delusion. Delusion leads to confusion in our memory. And when there is confusion in our memory, we will lose our power of discrimination. And when we lose power of discrimination, we will lose everything in our life. We will become totally irrational. So we should learn to manage our anger and we should not give improper punishment to others. The second discipline mentioned by our Patanjali Muni under Ahimsa is Satyam. Satyam means to be truthful. If a person is untruthful, it will only create unnecessary complications in his life. It will become a source of disturbance. So it is like a man. He is entering a jungle in the midnight without a light. He has nothing to guide him. And what will happen? He will be totally lost inside the jungle. So that is why they say that we should always speak the truth in our day-to-day life. Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 7th shloka, speaks about the different values a person has to follow, has to practice, especially when he is seeking this self-knowledge. The virtues that has been mentioned in this shloka are amanitvam, one who is free from arrogance. He should not have this superiority complex always. Adambhitvam. Adambhitvam means to be a very simple, a modest person, simple living person. Arjavam. Arjavam means to be very straightforward, honesty in thought, words and deeds. Satyam is a subdivision of Arjavam. It is called Vakya Paripalanam. I would like to narrate a story about a great saint called Abhirami Bhattar. He lived in the 18th century in a small town called Tirukadayur in South India. It is located now in the present Tanjore district in South India. This Abhirami Bhattar, he was otherwise, his other name was Subramanyam. He was an ardent devotee of goddess Abhirami. She was an incarnation of Parvati. Abhirami Bhattar, every day he used to go to the temple nearby his house, and he used to meditate on goddess Abhirami. One day, while he was meditating, at that time, the king of who was ruling this Tanjore district, he was Sarafoji Maharaja. He visited the temple. As soon as the king entered the temple, the people around and inside the temple, they immediately paid respect to him and they stood up. Abhirami Bhattar, who was in deep meditation, he did not know that the king has arrived, and so he was sitting and meditating. The king saw this and he thought that this man was disrespecting him. And the king, he worshipped he stood there for some time. He worshipped the deity, and then he went close to Abhirami Bhattar and he just asked him one question. Please answer me. What day is today? Is this a full moon day or a new moon day, a Amavasya day? Abhirami Bhattar, without hesitation, with his eyes closed, he said, today it is a full moon day. But actually that day was a new moon day. It was Amavasya day. The king got irritated. First, he thought this man was disrespecting him. And number two, now he was lying. So he immediately, the king, he went to his palace and he said that this man, Abhirami Bhattar, he should come to the court and he should be punished. So he sends his soldiers to the temple. And by that time, Abhirami Bhattar had completed his meditation, and once he came out of meditation, the people around, they told him what had happened in the temple. Abhirami Bhattar was in total, he did not know what to do. So by that time, the soldiers had arrived and he was taken to the palace, to the courtroom. And the king, he saw the king and he pleaded to the king. He told the king that, please do not punish me. I was in that deep meditative state. When I was meditating, I could see only the goddess Abhirami's face and it was glittering like the full moon. And so when you had questioned me, perhaps I must have answered that it was a full moon day. I'm very sorry. But the king said, nothing doing. You are going to be punished today. I'll just give you a time. Till 12 midnight, I'll give you time. The moon should appear on the sky. So Abhirami Bhattar did not know what to do. He just closed his eyes and he started reciting some poems on goddess Abhirami. The goddess was so pleased, and immediately what she did, the goddess, to save her devotee. It is said that she removed her diamond earring from her ear and she threw it on the sky. And this diamond earring, which was glittering on the sky, it was like a full moon. People who saw this and the king, they were all overwhelmed, and immediately the king, he repented for what he had done, and he just went and he asked, he told 𝐵𝐵 Bhattar that he asked for pardon, and he said he will not be punished. And 𝐵𝐵 Bhattar was asked to go back home. Why I narrated the story is, 𝐵𝐵 Bhattar was a person who always, he spoke the truth. The scriptures say that the person who speaks truth, they call them as Vaktapas. So, a person who speaks truth for 12 years, by mistake, if they speak untruth, what happens? Whatever they speak, the untruth also becomes truth. And this is what happened in the case of 𝐵𝐵 Bhattar. The next discipline is asteya. Asteya means abstaining from stealing anything which does not belong to him or her. It is not only the materialistic things, money or any material things, but a person should not steal even the credits or privileges of others. Nowadays, we do see that many concepts and many know-hows in different fields, people steal them and they pen their own names and they give it to, put it in the society, which is very wrong. The next is brahmacharya. Brahmacharya means, widely it is said as celibacy or abstinence from craving for all kinds of sensual enjoyments. If you take this word brahmacharya and if you split the word, it is brahma plus charu. Charu means movement. Brahma means supreme being. A person in that stage of life, in that brahmacharya stage, he is a student where he is studying about that highest supreme being. So when at that stage of life, the student will be attracted to so many worldly sensual objects. But a person who knows his goal, he or she is unaffected by the presence or absence of different kinds of sensual objects, and that is what we call as celibacy. It is said in the scriptures that even in grihastha stage of life, brahmacharya has to be followed. It means that the husband and wife, they should be truthful to each other, and together they perform the rituals in their day-to-day life to realize the highest truth. The next discipline is aparigraha. Aparigraha means non-possessiveness. absence of greediness. As a human being, we are all here, we have the tendency to always accumulate all these worldly goods, worldly things. What happens then? We spend time in guarding all these things which we have accumulated. For example, we buy one house for ourselves, then the next house for our son, and the next house for the daughter. And what happens? We have to maintain this house, we have to guard this house. And what happens? This becomes an anxiety for us. It becomes too much of worries are there, how to maintain it. So this is opposite of aparigraha. We should know what we should possess, whatever we need, that's it. So a yogi, always he knows what he needs to possess, what is his requirements. His requirements should be always minimum. It is said that King Janaka, who was ruling Mithilapuri, he was a very great king. He lived in a palace, but he was like a hermit. His wants and needs were very minimum. So all these above values are the ethical foundation for a yoga sadhaka. Now let us discuss about the niyamas. The niyamas which has been mentioned, the disciplines that has been mentioned in the niyama. The first and the foremost discipline mentioned under niyama is Shaucha. Shaucha means cleanliness. Cleanliness, orderliness, purity, all these come under Shaucha. Cleanliness and orderliness, they always go together. Cleanliness in 3 levels. My surrounding should be clean, my house should be clean, my street should be clean. So this is what is happening during the COVID period. We are cleaning our house, cleaning our room, cleaning the streets. So which is very, very important now. The second level of cleanliness and orderliness is of our body. It is called Sharira Shaucha. Why should we keep our body clean? The scriptures say that this body happens to be the vehicle and means to do our yoga sadhana. The great poet Kalidasa in Kumara Sambhava, he has said that Sharira Madhyam Kalu Dharma Sadhanam. Without this physical body, spiritual practice is impossible. So we should give sufficient respect to this body and we should not pamper it. Pampering means we should not beautify the body. We should keep this body clean for our spiritual pursuit. The next level of purity is Indriya and Manaha. Purity of Indriya and Manaha. Indriya are the senses, Manaha, mind. The mind and the senses are interconnected. The knowledge which we acquire from the outside world gets connected to as thoughts. If the senses are indulging in unhealthy fields, the thoughts will also be unhealthy. So we should keep our mind and senses pure. When we have purity of thoughts, we will acquire positive qualities like friendliness, compassion, and we will also appreciate others for their good deeds. Shastras also say that purification of mind happens when we chant regularly the mantras, the japas. When we chant this every day, what happens? There is a positive vibration in our body and mind, and the undesirable qualities are removed. The next one, discipline, is santosha. Santosha means contentment. The contentment happens only when the mind is in the state of equanimity. When the mind is in that state of equilibrium, we will understand what are our needs and what we want. We should always know these two, the difference between these two. Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, speaks about this state of mind as sama chittatvam. The enemies of this state of mind are jealousy, anger, fear, and anxiety. So we should always tackle these enemies to keep our mind in that samatvam. The third discipline is tapas. What does tapas mean? Tapas means austerity, purity. Some misguided people think that tapas means standing on one leg and lifting the hands above our head and to stand in that position for a number of years. No, this is not tapas. Tapas is a systematic practice of all the yoga angas for a period of time and to eliminate impurities in the body, senses, and mind, so that it can function perfectly as the instrument for this Atma. In our tradition, we follow this upavasas or the fasting during the period of Durga Puja, during Janmashtami. We have all these fastings. We also fast on Ekadasi day. This is a day which falls on the 11th day from the new moon and from the full moon day, where we have certain restrictions in our food habits, and we also do certain rituals on these days. Why we do all these things? This is a tapas. Here, by restricting the food habits, what happens? This cleanses our body system. And by doing the rituals on these days, it cleanses our mind and our senses. And that is tapas. Svādhyāya is the fourth discipline. As I told you earlier, Svādhyāya in a broader perspective means reading scriptures. Reading scriptures is very, very important. This is the first step where we study the scriptures in detail. And the next step is we should put this, whatever we have studied in the scriptures, we have to put that into practice, or else it will become only a theoretical knowledge. So we should practice this in our day-to-day life. And we should have a constant reflection whether we are moving in the right direction. Chanting mantras is also called as Svādhyāya. Svashaka Adhyayanam. Every day we should chant the mantras from the Vedic scriptures. The last discipline is Ishvara Pranidhana, an attitude of surrendering to the highest force. It also means submission of the results of our action to the Supreme Being. Surrendering our ego to that highest force. It is a very difficult thing to do. This is a deeper process of transformation in a yoga sadhaka. To conclude, it has been very clearly said in the scriptures that a yoga sadhaka should put effort to develop these values, all these disciplines. When a person is unable to practice these disciplines in their day-to-day life, then the knowledge becomes more academic and verbal. Now, I'm going to teach you a small chant from Taittiriya Upanishad, the first chapter, a Sikshavalli. It has been very clearly said in this chapter about Svādhyāya, reading scriptures. Reading alone is not enough. You have to put this, certain disciplines, certain values, you have to put this into practice. This is what the teacher says. He speaks to his students after their completion of the Gurukula education. He speaks to them and he tells how they should lead a life. When they enter the society, how they should lead. Follow the path of truth. Follow. Always do tapas. Always control your senses. Always respect your parents. They are the divine beings. So this is what has been spoken in this chapter, in this chant. And I would like to teach this chant. And I request Mauli Bavisker to come forward. So when I chant, I would like her to repeat. Thank you, Mauli.
So, ma'am, I'll share the text of the chant. So the people who are joining us, they can also see the words. Is that okay?
Sure. Please do it.
Okay.
Okay. This is called Svādhyāya Prashamsa. Okay. I will chant one line and then you just repeat it, okay? Twice.
Okay.
Om Ritancha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Om Ritancha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Satyancha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Satyancha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Tapascha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Tapascha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Damascha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Damascha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
Shamascha Svādhyāya Pravachane Cha
शमश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
अग्नयश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
अग्नयश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
अग्निहोत्रञ्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
अग्निहोत्रं च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
अतिथयश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
अतिथयश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
मानुषञ्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
मानुषं च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
प्रजा च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
प्रजा च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
प्रजनश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
प्रजनश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
प्रजातिश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
प्रजातिश्च स्वाध्याय प्रवचने च
सत्यमिति सत्यवचारार्थीतरः
सत्यमिति सत्यवचारार्थीतरः
तप इति तपो नित्यपौरुषेष्टिः
तप इति तपो नित्यपौरुषिष्टिः
स्वाध्याय प्रवचने एवेति न को मौद्गल्यः
स्वाध्याय प्रवचने एवेति नाको मौद्गल्यः
तद्धि तपस्तद्धि तपः
तद्धि तपस्तद्धि तपः.
Can you just scroll it?
Yes, ma'am.
सत्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
सत्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
धर्मान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
धर्मान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
कुशलान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
कुशलान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
भूत्यैन प्रमदितव्यम्
भूत्यै न प्रमदितव्यम्
स्वाध्याय प्रवचनाभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
स्वाध्याय प्रवचनाभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
देव पितृकार्याभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
देव पितृकार्याभ्यान्न प्रमदितव्यम्
मातृदेवो भव
मातृदेवो भव
पितृदेवो भव
पितृदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
आचार्यदेवो भव
अतिथिदेवो भव
अतिथिदेवो भव
यान्यनवद्यानि कर्माणि
यान्यनवद्यानि कर्माणि
तानि सेवितव्यानि
तानि सेवितव्यानि
नो इतराणि
नो इतराणि
यान्यस्माकं सुचरितानि
यान्यस्माकं सुचरितानि
तानि त्वयोपास्यानि
तानि त्वयोपास्यानि.
Thank you, Mauli. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, ma'am.
So
It was.
this is. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, please tell me. So I would like to conclude this program with another chant, a closing chant. Usually when we do the Vedic mantra chanting, we usually have chant a Shama Shloka. Why this is? Because traditionally they say that if we make any mistakes while chanting, we surrender to that Narayana. Okay, we ask for forgiveness. So I will chant that and then we will speak about the rest. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
यदक्षरपदष्टं मात्राहीनन्तु यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव नारायण नमोऽस्तु ते श्रीमते नारायणाय नमो नमः कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतिस्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
So this
Mauli,
Kshama Prarthana was almost
for
essential,
giving me this
and
opportunity.
pleasure is mine. I feel so grateful that you accepted my invite, and I was almost nervous to chant with you today. It was so many years, and again, so but it was a wonderful experience. uh, thank you so much for accepting the
giving me this
invitation.
opportunity.
And there is a beautiful coincidence while you talked about Svādhyāya as the study of scriptures. and doing the chanting. So every Saturday at Damaru, Saturday mornings, we do the chanting, which has stopped during this COVID times and shifted online now. But just today we launched a new program where it's a study in the introduction to Vedanta, and that whole intention is about Svādhyāya. And now you talk about study of scripture, so it's so
Okay.
beautiful. I feel blessed that the same day that thing is starting at W Studio. So thank you again for bringing that up. And thank you
Okay.
all who have joined us today.
Thank
I
you.
hope you enjoyed our chant. And more than enjoyed, you can actually revisit it, and you can chant along with us. That's a beautiful practice. Gradually, you can develop that. So, yeah, that was for today. And tomorrow, same time, 7:30 India time, evening, we will meet with our next speaker. Till then, stay connected and have a beautiful evening. Have a beautiful day, wherever, whichever time zones you are in. So, thank you so much for joining. Namaste.